Merry Meet Annie here. Welcome back to the Flow of the Rite series. So far we've talked about ritual, writing ritual, getting ready for ritual, cleaning the space, clearing the space, setting up your temple, and then an intentional withdrawal from that space. This video is about that time before our return to our ritual, in fact. Yes, we're finally getting to the ritual. It's a stepping aside and a time to do some self-purification, some readying of your body and your mind. It's important that you've intentionally stepped away from your space because you're going to attend for a time being to something that starts out feeling very worldly and mundane. Some personal act of cleansing. A way to set up your mind and your body for returning to the place you will do your ritual changed. Not just suddenly stepping outside of that busy world we all live in and stepping into ritual space, but knowing that you have changed something about yourself before you re-enter your sacred space. I know you've read a lot about the ritual bath or the ritual shower, in some way cleansing the body. Yeah, a lot of us do that. The physical act of cleaning ourselves and preparing ourselves. But it ends with the spiritual act of shedding, of washing away the things we don't want attached to us when we step into our sacred place. So you may take on a ritual that has to do with bathing, leading from the physical act of cleanliness into the purification, the making yourself ready aspect of preparation. However, it's not the only way to prepare yourself. You may already have something, which is what you do to prepare yourself. You may want to try different things to prepare yourself. Something which triggers the I was there and now I'm entering this new place, body, mind, and soul. It should be something that you repeat, something that your unconscious, your psyche, knows as a trigger that this was then and now, this is now and the way forward. A little bit of a division of time between one sense of being and the other. Sometimes my personal act of getting ready is to take a walk. I can't always have my rituals outside, and in fact, where I live now, because the houses are very close to each other, even though we're in the woods, there's no privacy out there. My rituals, since I have moved, the casual ones, the on-the-fly ones, the ones where I intentionally want to be out in nature and do something, yep, they're outside. But my formalized rituals for the moons and the holidays are inside, where I can have guaranteed privacy. A walk outside gets me in the place I need to disconnect from the busyness of my life, the noise in my house, my responsibilities, my cares, my worries, all the things we carry as a human package. A nice walk, a settling down with a cup of tea does it for me, if that's what I feel called to that particular time. And you might be guessing from what I'm saying, I don't prepare myself the same way each time. Yep, I always bathe in the physical sense, just preparing myself in that physical way. But I'll take a walk, have a nice cup of tea. Throwing cold water in my face works wonderfully for me as a way to say, yep, I'm in a new place now. You can decide what works for you. This act of cleansing of the body in a physical sense, but also you see it referred to as purification. I don't know if I'd call it that. I would see it kind of as a separation. You're drawing a line in the sand that on that side of the line I was living my normal, harried, busy, wonderful life, and on this side of the line I'm releasing that because in my ritual space I have other plans of what I want to be focused on. Some act that feels cleansing to you, first in the physical sense, but then in the emotional sense, the disconnection, the washing away, which is why a shower does work so well, of cares, concerns, even the joys of day-to-day life. So while you see it called purification, think of it perhaps not so much in the sense that there's anything bad you have to get rid of, because there's nothing bad about our mundane existence, no matter its joys and sorrows. Instead, you are purifying yourself, freeing yourself from distractions of what caused you from this side. In a way, you're providing yourself with what I think of as a kind of drift. There's that time when you've cleansed the body and the mind, in whatever your personal way is. There's that time that you are kind of between the mundane and then what you're going to settle into is the working of your ritual. Providing yourself kind of that quiet zone in between. I think of it as a bit of a drift, but a drift in a good way. A sense of releasing connection to anything which is heavy in the mundane sense. You're going to be, as you re-enter your temple, consecrating it, dedicating it to the work of the moment and to your gods. In a way, this stepping and cleansing, the process of purification at an emotional and spiritual level, is consecrating the temple of your body. So it is no small spiritual task you take on in the moments before your ritual begins. You're dedicating yourself to something, intentionally realizing you're disconnecting yourself from all the many things you're dedicated to in your life. Instead, you're giving yourself that moment of drift, which will become a focus on what you are about to be dedicated to as the one and only thing for the time you're in ritual. And that is being in your ritual. You might take on, as part of that purification, maybe at the end of whatever process you follow on a regular basis that gives you that sense of drift, you might take on something which you identify with each time. Using scent, some oil, something which you anoint your body with can be a very powerful way to trigger your senses to, oh, I'm in this new place now. Yeah, I said new, but isn't it ancient really? More ancient than we can possibly comprehend, but something we do feel connected to that moves through us at this time. You might have a decision to make. Does purification, the way you leave that intentional act of separation, does it mean to you shedding your clothes? Some of this practice in the nude. It doesn't matter if we do or not. To me, the concept of naked in your rites means being completely and totally open and vulnerable within the sacred circle. Naked at the spiritual level, completely open to the experience. You may find that clothing inhibits your feeling of being that open. That clothing feels to you like a connection to that mundane world, where clothing is certainly a representation of the physical aspect of that mundane world. However, if you choose to practice clothed, you might think about what you take on after you've cleansed your body, and as you have brought yourself to a place of emotional and spiritual purification. Are you going to throw on the same old sweats? Are you going to dress up in your finest? Are you going to put your PJs on? Do you have this particular robe you want to put on? It doesn't matter what, except that you know why you're choosing a certain thing. You may have clothing, even mundane clothing that you use only for this time. You may have a certain robe. You may prefer just to be comfortable in whatever clothing feels unrestricted to you. Perhaps you want to eschew man-made fiber. You may have particular articles of clothing which are natural in content. No matter what you choose to put on clothes that have meaning, even if that meaning is, I wear this same thing every time because I am the most physically comfortable in it, or you may have ritual clothing, or you may choose to be clothed in what the goddess gave you. It's a personal choice. There's no right or wrong. But you might want to use some trigger, such as scent, something you anoint yourself with that feels of this world you're about to enter. I do suggest as part of this that you not put on any particular ritual jewelry. And in fact, I'm a proponent of being naked in the sense of having no jewelry on as you enter your space. It mimics some of the power of where the goddess was at the bottom, or the penultimate point, according to how you look at it, of the descent. She had to give up everything before she could become. You'll see that in my ritual, I do have ritual jewelry, but I consider that to be part of what happens in circle, putting that jewelry on. I come into the circle in whatever clothing I choose that is comfortable, that gets me free of the feeling of being fettered to clothing, nothing restrictive, nothing synthetic, but I don't add jewelry until I'm in ritual. Play with it to see what it feels like for you. Whether your concept of entering naked means entering vulnerable and open, in comfortable clothing, in specific clothing, which feels connected to the other world in some way for you, or whether you choose to enter in no clothing. It's all the same in the end. It's a matter of intent. No matter your choices, as I continually say, look for the repeating pattern, something that you will do unconsciously every time, which gets you unconsciously to a certain place. Follow a repeating pattern. I might take a walk. I might have a cup of tea. There are things I might do to prepare myself as an entry point into that act of purification. But the act of purification that I do is the same every time. How I leave that and present myself to the portal of my circle, I arrive every time in the same mindset, prepared the same way, having gone through my repeating pattern of getting ready. One of the things you learn from this is, it's like a wheel. There's a point on the wheel that no matter how many times the wheel turns around to that same point, and imagine yourself as the point, returning to the portal of your sacred space, on that same point in the cycle of what you do. But no matter how many times you do it, you've arrived at a different place. As the wheel turns, that spot on the wheel returns to the same place on the wheel, but the wheel is never in the same place twice, not on a progressive journey. So you're preparing yourself, and a pattern you recognize is the turning of your wheel. And there's the power of recognizing that even as you present yourself to the portal of your sacred space, you are the same, but simultaneously different to every time you are in that same place. The next video in the series is actually, finally, the beginning of the Rite, and it will focus on the concept of the return. Until then, I wish you mirth and reverence. Merry part.